Hello everyone, this is POW Ponder on Weather. In this update, we're going to be talking about the polar vortex's last stance as winter comes back for the Northeast and another severe weather setup going into next week. Good afternoon everyone, this is your March 25th update. And we're really kind of expanding the view this morning and taking a look at the overall Northern Hemisphere look. And we actually had the last and final warming of the Arctic with another polar vortex split that actually took place up in the Arctic around Monday, the 21st time frame. But that's going to be sending pieces of energy through the mid latitudes and some much colder air, as you can actually see, starting to enter places into the Northeast with much colder temperature anomalies. At the same time, we got a pretty big ridge of high pressure that's really dominating over our western parts and southwest and over parts of the central US. And a lot of it has to do with the if you take a look at the overall teleconnections up in the atmosphere, the North American oscillation actually goes negative, and that's the indication where we did have that polar vortex split is pushing off the northwest flow, pushing all that colder air into the northeastern part of the US with bringing those much colder anomalies. But that's not going to last forever. They last all the way through about the first or the second time frame, and you can definitely see as we get into the first week of April, the NAO goes positive again. But right now, at the same time, the PNA, which is your Pacific North American oscillation, goes positive. So that's an indication where you've got all the cold air literally bottled up in our eastern part of the US, and then all the warmer air bottled up out west. And you can definitely tell by looking at the temperature anomalies as we get into your Saturday afternoon time frame, with these well below average temperatures of a good chunk from the upper Midwest through the Ohio Valley, heading in towards portions of the Northeast by then, with those 10 to 15 degrees below average temperature anomalies. But out west with that positive PNA, there you are, you got well above average temperatures. You're talking 15, 20, uppers to almost 25 degrees above average for March time frame. And underneath that, we are going to be having like a sporadic snow showers. I'm not looking at for any significant snow from this particular setup, but you can definitely see with that negative NAO, you've got some 1031 Arctic high pressures. There's a 1036 up here in Canada. And you can definitely see where the orange shaded areas is. That's where the ridge of high pressure, that's all your sinking air. And under your sinking air, there's not much rain to speak of underneath that. But off the northwest flow, you're going to have a little bit more lift to work with. And you're going to be looking at some sporadic snow showers, some lake enhanced induced snows as well. But yeah, we're looking at anywhere from a dusting to maybe a couple inches and spots into portions of Michigan here up into the mid-Atlantic coming into the day on tomorrow time frame on Saturday. But underneath that, I think it just gets colder. So as that northwest flow continues to be a little bit more pronounced, where if you take a look at the upper elevations of the 850 millibars, that's about 5,000 feet up in the atmosphere. It's got a lot of Arctic air to work with, and all those deep purples, that's an indication where that's some pretty cold temperatures for March standards. And if you actually take a look at some of the surface temperatures, by the time we get into your Monday, March the 28th time frame, all these areas in red here, that's 20 degrees, if not in the teens as you wake up. So definitely winter is going to be coming back in a big way, at least for a couple of days up here in portions of the upper Midwest, going into the Ohio Valley and much of the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. I mean, these are widespread 20s, even teens in up portions of New York. Even Long Island will be experiencing a freeze. New Jersey into Delaware, back into Rhode Island here, into Connecticut, back into Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, going into Maine. Those are teens. I mean, that's definitely going to be winter is going to be coming back with a vengeance, at least for a couple of days. And as we get into underneath that surface, yeah, I'm not talking about any sporadic, any really significant snows to contend with, but yeah, you are going to be experiencing a little bit snow showers up here in the morning hours by the time we get into your Monday time frame of March the 28th. But in the afternoon, I don't think you really warm up. So Monday's really a cold day. I mean, these are actually high temperatures. You're gonna be struggling to try to get out of the 20s in much of Michigan, much of Pennsylvania, much of Jersey here, even into Long Island, you know, going into Rhode Island, into Connecticut, into Massachusetts, pretty much New York. I mean, Vermont, New Hampshire, going into Maine. I mean, trying to get above freezing is going to be a struggle as you get into peak heating of the day on Monday. And I think you have another pretty good freeze coming up on the day on Tuesday time frame. But underneath that, there's your sporadic snow showers for the upper Midwest, getting into portions of the Great Lakes here, into the Mid-Atlantic, in portions of North New England here. But it could be picking up anywhere from, say, a dusting to upwards to possibly 3-inch, and some isolated incidences for your snow with underneath, with all that cold air you're going to have to be contending with. But at the same time, let's kind of expand the view as we get into Monday, because things are going to be rapidly changing out west. Where that ridge of high pressure has been dominating, we do have another significant trough. There's that. We have a setup over the Bering Sea currently right now. By the time we get into Monday, that trough is going to be setting up over portions of California, bringing those cooler conditions and actually some much needed rain. But out ahead of it, there's the warm sector. You got plenty of warmth under the ridge of high pressure. We're talking fire dangers out here in West Texas. Even some record high temperatures on Monday is definitely not out of the question, with some 15 to 20 degrees above average temperatures in portions of the southern plains. But there's the trough in the Northeast, bringing all those colder anomalies. But underneath that, look at the soil moisture content we've been dealing with between you know, the beginning of the year and between now. So you can definitely see, I mean, California is actually starting off with their driest start in about 40 years, with the soils are continuing to dry out even further than what they already were. And some of the you know, where they have experienced some of the rain showers and some of the well above average temperature you know, precipitation underneath Louisiana, get into Arkansas, Mississippi, and Alabama. A lot of these areas have picked up a lot of that storm activity, and those soils are pretty moist. But out west, they definitely need any rain they can get, and they're actually going to get some of that rain, because underneath that trough, too bad it's going to be moving fairly progressive, so it is going to be moving a pretty quick system. But we should be seeing some scattered showers coming up on your Monday afternoon, March 28th in California. So this is definitely some much needed rain for portions of California. These are kind of, you know, scattered showers, but still they'll take everything they get out there. But that trough continues to push off into the east. And by the time we get into that Tuesday afternoon, late Tuesday evening time frame, if we take a look at the overall 500 millibar, now this is about 15,000 feet. We do have a fairly significant trough digging back into the Baja of California. As it gets towards Texas, it's going to be going in neutrally tilted. It's not as significant as the trough that we saw last week, but it's definitely going to be setting up a kind of a dry line type scenario. And typically that would be a severe weather threat scenario as we get into your Tuesday afternoon, late Tuesday night time frame. Because if you take a look at the overall supercell composite index, yeah, we could be looking at a little bit more lift, a little bit more instability in the atmosphere as the dew points start to creep up. It starts tapping into that dry line type setup. Yeah, we could be looking at some supercells starting to fire into portions of Kansas, into Oklahoma, out here in West Texas, as we get into the late afternoon into the evening time frame. And that's the same area that the Storm Prediction Center, even 5 days out, guys, the same deal as last week, has already highlighted a 15% slight chance of severe weather over that dry line setup, right where that trough is going to be setting up just on the east of there. We could be looking at thunderstorms in all three modes on the table for severe weather. We're talking isolated tornadoes, damaging winds, and some large hail to be contend with. And of course, we'll fine tune this as we get closer. But even right now, the confidence is fairly high for at least a slight risk for severe weather into Kansas and to Oklahoma, and get into portions of North Texas out into West Texas. And then the further east it goes, it looks to be kind of an overnight setup, training over North Texas as it continues to push into East Texas going into the wee hours of Wednesday morning. Because here's the overall surface map going into your Tuesday night, Wednesday morning time frame. We could be looking at a pretty significant nasty squall line moving across portions of Kansas, portions of Oklahoma, and portions of West Texas, eventually filtering into East Texas as we moving across from west to east through that late Tuesday night time frame, going into the overnight time frame on the wee hours of Wednesday morning, and that will continue. So once these continues and pushes off into portions of Louisiana and Arkansas, I think the timing sets up where it's a bit more or less into the afternoon time frame by then, and that will have a little bit more daytime energy to work with, a little bit more instability to work with as well. But even on a day 6, they're still confident enough into Louisiana, into Arkansas, into Mississippi, into western parts of Tennessee and Kentucky here. We could be looking at all 3 modes of severe weather going into the day on your Wednesday time frame. And if we take a look at the overall helicity index, this is kind of an indication of where some of the shear might be taking place. We're going to have to be definitely concerned because these shear profiles are already fairly high given the fact that they're 6 days out. So we could be looking at more tornadoes starting to break out in this section of the country. So definitely we're going to be fine-tuning this as we get deeper into next week. But underneath that continues to push off into the east, and this vorticity kind of opens up as an open wave right now. Of course, this is like 6-7 days out. So but to the southeast of there, that's typically where you would have all the instability and some of the severe weather going into Dixie Alley, going into portions of the southeast. But that won't be until your early Thursday morning going into Thursday afternoon time frame. But yeah, the winds are going to be pretty prevalent. So we've got the northwest flow off the northeast, and then we have that trough coming in for next week. But once it gets into the midsection of the country, it's going to be a windy scenario with that comma Q shape setting up over portions of the southern plains into the southeast, into the midsection of the country. So it's going to be a windy setup as we get into your Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday time frame of next week. So hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video and definitely leave your comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel to catch the latest update where I protect you before and after the storm.